Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to look into solving a quadratic equation by using the completing the square method. And in order to distinguish the difference between completing the square method in quadratic functions and in quadratic equations, I put them side by side and we're going to go over each step together. Now, remember that this is something we went over already, so I'm going to start with this first. So whenever we are trying to complete the square in quadratic function, we're trying to make this into vertex form, which is y equals ax minus h squared plus k. So the way we did this in quadratic functions was by first grouping the first two terms that are the x squared and the x terms. Now, in quadratic equations on the other side, so this is a quadratic equation because it's a quadratic equation of the zeros of it. So what we do is the x squared and the x terms will be separated, but not by brackets, but by being kept on one side of the equation, and the number 6 will go to the other side. So while here we separate the constant from the variable terms by using brackets, here we separate them by taking to the other side. And that's because in quadratic equations we have the freedom to do that. Now the next step was factoring out the coefficient a. So here we're going to factor the coefficient a, which is number 3. And then in brackets we have x squared plus 2 over 3x. And then plus 6, obviously. So here, instead of factoring, so here you factor, here you are going to divide. So we divide by the same number, so the number a. And we're going to have division by 3 everywhere, both sides of the equation. And then we have x squared plus 2 over 3x equals negative 2. Okay? And in the next step, in quadratic functions, we completed the square, and that's what we're going to do now. So number 3 is going to sit here, and then we have x squared plus 2 over 3x. And now remember how we completed the square. Here we complete the square by looking at or taking the coefficient of x, half it, so that means 2/3 divided by 2. So I'm going to just do this down here. Now, when you divide by 2 or multiply by 1/2, that is the same thing, and then squaring it. So as you can see here, then we end up with 1 over 3. Now, square it, it's going to be 1 over 9. So we are completing the square here by adding and subtracting the same number to both sides of the equation. So let's do this. So we are adding 1 over 9 and subtracting 1 over 9 here, closing brackets, and then plus 6. Now, in equations, again, we complete the square. That's why we call it completing the square method, right? But we work with the numbers slightly differently. So in this case, I'm actually going to change this a little bit. All right, so plus 6. Okay, so while here we add and subtract the same number to complete the square, in quadratic equations, we are going to add the same number to both sides of the equation. And that's how we complete the square here. Plus 1 over 9. Okay, so you can tell the difference in here. So I'm just going to write complete the square. But completing the square is slightly different, right? So here you add and subtract, here you add the same number to both sides. Now, in quadratic functions, we are factoring out or the perfect square. So I'm going to take the steps a little slow here for everyone to follow. So we have number 3, which is a coefficient a, and then inside the brackets is the perfect square, which is x squared plus 2 over 3x plus 1 over 9. And negative 1 over 9 will come out. Don't forget, it has a coefficient, so we're going to have plus 3 times negative 1 over 9, and then plus 6. Now, in quadratic equations, we already have this perfect square together, so what we can do is just factor it. And we know how to factor this. We're going to take the square root of x squared the square root of 1 over 9. We know it's a perfect square. We don't have to check that. And then to the power of 2. And on the other side, we have negative 2 over 1 plus 1 over 9. So we're going to have to work a little bit with this fraction. So they're ready to add. And we have negative 17 over 9. So in quadratic functions again, to simplify or to convert this to vertex form, we're going to have x squared plus 2 over 3x plus 1 over 9, written now in factored form, which will be simply, x plus 1 over 3 squared. And we're going to simplify this bunch of terms in here. 3 and 9 simplifies to negative 1 over 3, and then plus 6. And we go all the way x plus 1 over 3 squared, and then 1/3 and 6, negative 1/3 and 6, we multiply by 3 here. 18 minus 1 is 17, and then over 3, and we're done here. We converted this to vertex form. So let's see how we handle now the quadratic equation. So in quadratic equations, now remember we are solving for x. This is our unknown. Now x is logged in by this power, inside the brackets by this power. So we're going to get rid of that bracket first. And to get rid of the bracket, we're going to take the root of both sides. And when we take the roots of both sides, we have to take the positive and the negative. So remember that the root and the power simplify. And x plus 1 over 3 will sit on its own here. On the other side, we have plus minus the root of negative 17 over 9. So we're going to isolate x. So take that 1 over 3 to the other side, negative 1 over 3, plus or minus root of negative 17 over root of 9, which is 3. So remember, you can split this into two roots. Now we're ready to state the two solutions. So we're going to say x1 is negative 1 plus root negative 17 over 3, and x2 is negative 1 minus root of negative 17 over 3. And as you can see here, we obtained two roots, and these two roots are not real, or they're complex. So we're going to say two non-real or complex roots. And they're distinct. They're always distinct whenever they are complex roots. So again, just to summarize the difference in completing the square in functions, here you group the variable terms and separate them by the constant term using brackets, right? And here you separate the variable terms from the constant term by keeping one set on the left side and constant to the other. Now here you factor out the coefficient a, here you divide by the coefficient a everywhere. Now here you complete the square by adding and subtracting the same number inside the brackets, and here you add the same number to both sides of the equation. Okay, and remember that in here when you take negative 1 over 9 out, you have to take 3 with it, and the rest of the process is a little bit more unique now for the quadratic equation because we are doing basically something different. Here we're finding the zeros. So I hope you found these instructions useful, and follow for more for the rest of the lesson. Bye for now.